Morning. Reborn Boutique is back. So it's been probably about 5 years now. A lot of stuff has changed, but I'm going to be back painting, showing you guys how I paint, which is not necessarily the right way, but it's the way that I paint. Talking about all things Reborn. Is this craft still up there? Are people still buying them? And also just a bit of a forum of things you want to chat about. So we'll start by it's been a long time since I've painted. I was doing it full time for about 5 years, and then I took a bit of a break. But now things have sort of come back to where I can start painting again. So some dolls I did keep over the time of painting. This is one of them. So this is, I always get this name wrong. I can't even say it. Gorin by Vincenza Carrie, or forget the names. If you've watched my channel before, you know I'm hopeless with names. So this doll, I made this right at the end of it would have been 3 years ago now. And I did keep her because I did something a little bit different with her. I'm not sure if the lighting picks it up, but she's got quite a lot of lines down her forehead. Looks like maybe she's been scratched a little bit, or happened during birth, I guess. I did turn to painting hair for a while, but I do feel like for majority of my dolls, I will now go back to rooting hair. I just think it gives them a softer look, basically. But for younger children, I was just doing a very fine paint on their hair. So you can see her legs. She's more of a older looking doll, so I tend to want to look at newborn type dolls and make them really sort of lots of blues, lots of yellows, lots of veins. I sort of go a bit over top with that. That's not everybody's taste. Everyone's different. But she's an older doll. So the other one I'm going to show you, this is, pretty sure his name's Elijah. He's more of a small looking doll. I did try something different where I did paint on the sides and a bit of hair on the top. But I probably, I did thicker eyebrows too. I don't normally do that. He looks like he may be a man with a mortgage, but I like to try different styles just to see, how each one turns out. And I sort of always have my favorites, but I didn't mind the half hair, half painted. You do need to style them though. I mean, I do use a, it's not an oil, it's more like a cream, and I put it onto a comb and I sort of brush it through, and it kind of helps style it. Because with the mohair, depending on what mohair you use, it does need a little bit of help. So that's that one. Then you can see in the background I have done, what's her name? I think it starts with A. It's been a long time. Anyway, I painted her and I always kept her. And then I've done this one as well. Can't remember her name either. And this is so bizarre because I used to know all of the artist names, the name of the kit, but I guess it'll all come back in time. So for the point of this video, I have already started working on, this is Summer Rain by Bountiful Baby. Now I've gone into a lot more detail than I normally would because I'm trying something new. And that's okay. It's okay to try different styles and then work out that, oh, well, I actually hate it. Or I find with these things, you'll go through about 25 different stages where you'll start painting, you think it looks good, then you start adding in some blues, some veining, some red, and you're like, oh God, this thing looks horrible. And then by the time you get to the end, it's really not until the end till you put the doll together sometimes where you go, wow, this whole thing's really come together. So with her, I'm going to soften her by giving her mohair. That is what I'm going to do with that. I have painted this kit before. I've painted most of Bountiful Baby's kits over the years, but I didn't paint it like this. So we'll just keep track of that. And to give you a bit of an idea, you know, she's only at sort of very mild veining stage. She looks very rough at the moment. Her lines haven't been filled in and stuff, but that's a whole process. So if you're looking to start painting, it is really not that difficult. I learned everything I needed to learn off YouTube, and then obviously years of practice, different styles, and I mean even now I'm still changing my styles. So you're going to start with, you will need the roasting ovens. So I can show you a picture of those. Basically, in order to seal the paint onto your doll kit, you need to put them into the roasting ovens. They're not expensive. Everywhere has them. Kmart, Good Guys, wherever you are, whatever country you're in, any type of electrical store, they're only about between $40 and $60 each. It's just, you need to have them outside, because if you're burning vinyl, because obviously you're burning the vinyl to seal the paint, the fumes are very toxic. So never put them in your oven. Don't do that. And also temperature wise on your oven is really, really important. If it is too hot, the vinyl will sort of just collapse. And yeah, so I sort of do 10 minutes on, I think about 120 heat on the dial. So you'll know, because if you put in for a few minutes, take it out. If it's red roaring hot and you can't even touch it, you've probably got your heating too high, but it should be very warm. So somewhere in between, but you'll know as long as you have that oven outside. It's really, really important. So then the next thing to do is paints. So there are different types of paints. I use Genesis heat set paints. Now you can get these on City of Reborn Angels. You can get it on, if you're in Australia, you can get it on Aussie Reborn supplies. You can get them on And Made if you're in Australia. So they're Genesis heat set paints. They're a particular paint that you need to use in order for it to stick to the vinyl. They're not expensive. I think I pay $6 a colour. It's not something where you're like, oh my God, I've got to buy all these paints. And to be honest, to start off with, you probably really only need your flesh tones, which is, this is Flesh 8, but there's another colour, I think it's a darker colour I tend to use more. It might be a 7 actually. So you'll need this. Now keeping in mind that this amount can last me 6 months. So it's not as if you're buying some of this, you know, every couple of weeks. You're not, because you're actually diluting it with, I dilute with enamel thinner, okay? So I will show you how to sort of dilute that as well, but this is what you're going to use. I use a paint tray, and then I tend to put this into a squeezy bottle, and then you tend to just put some in there, how much you think you're going to use. You get your paintbrush. For this purpose, I've already got red in there. You can actually reuse the red that is already there. And if I wouldn't use this one because you can see the lumps in it, but that's how thin it needs to be. That is actually very dark. So because you're doing multiple layers, you don't want your color in the palette to be very thick. You want it to be very, very thin. This is too thick. if you're doing it properly, because you're building up the layers. You're not just painting a thick layer on. It won't look good. With my sponges, it's latex free sponges. I happen to get mine at Kmart. So you just read the back of the packet, make sure it's latex free. If it's not latex free, you have an issue with the vinyl, okay? Now, this is a lot of information if you're just starting out. However, once you've got these things set up, you've got your oven, you've got your doll kit, you've got your paints, you've got your sponges, and you've got your brushes. There's not actually a lot more that you actually need to do. Now, to get the different shapes, so if you have a look on her head, you may be able to see fine red, fine blue, that type of thing. That comes from your sponge. So this is a plain sponge, and then this is a mottled out sponge. And literally to get those shapes, you're literally you can use tweezers, whatever you want, you use your fingers. And then obviously the more cutouts you do, the more of a pattern you're going to get, okay? So that's your sponges. Now, your doll kit. I would suggest starting off with a cheaper doll kit. Doll kits can range from, $50 all the way through to thousands. So this one here, this is Bountiful Baby. Comes with a birth certificate. This one is Anna Asleep. So they come with a birth certificate. That's how you know they're authentic. So there is a lot on Temu and Shein and those types of things where you can get the knockoff versions, especially of these ones at the back, which are done by, sort of prestigious artists. The problem with that is the vinyl's awful. Besides the obvious is it's ripping off the artist, and the artist forgoes, their profit. I have tried one just to see, what is the comparison, and they're awful. They really are. They don't paint well. The vinyl's a funny color. They don't seal well. You really are wasting your money. And considering Bountiful Baby, which is this one and this one as well, they're so cheap that I don't really understand why you would need to go and buy one off Temu or Shein or Alibaba or any of those type of places. So when you go, like I said before, so you can go on Bountiful Baby is a good starting place for people who are learning, in my opinion, because there's so many made that they're everywhere. So you're going to sell this one for a cheaper price than you would say one of these, which is a full body. This one is cloth body with the over the tummy plate. Bountiful Baby, you will get less money on sale, but if you're learning, this is the best way to go about it, because you're not spending hundreds of dollars. I mean, I think she cost me $180, and that was 3 years ago. So you'll go onto Bountiful Baby, or you'll go onto Handmade, or Aussie Reborn Supplies, or City of Reborn Angels. I love City of Reborn Angels. They always have the newest stuff. They're decently priced. They have a lot of sales. They're probably I've got some of my best kits off there. You order it, and then obviously it arrives. So it comes, this one's Anna Asleep. Now the other thing is, every doll that you get is either, most will come with a body. I think a lot of the time I've had to order the body on top. So you have to know the difference between 3/4 arm and a full arm. So this one, for example, is a full arm, which means you're going to need, and it tells you on the front, this is a 19-inch doll, which means you need a 19-inch body, okay? So you know when you're ordering the body on the website under supplies, you're going to go into 19-inch body. And then this is a full arm. So it will say 19-inch 3/4 arm, 19-inch full arm. I actually do, this doll here, she's not 3/4. She is actually less than that. She actually has, here we go. She only has an arm up to here. So when I say 3/4, the arm sort of goes to there, right? And so there'll be material, cloth material from the top down, and then the arm will start. This is actually less than that. She's got material all the way. She's actually, you don't get many like that, in all honesty. So knowing which body to pick, but it's very clearly labeled. When you buy the doll kit, it will say 19-inch doll, full limbs, and of course if it has eyes, it'll tell you what size eyes to buy. And normally where you're getting the doll kit, they'll sell the eyes as well. With open-eyed dolls, have I done it with her? Yes. So with open-eyed dolls, she has glass eyes, okay? So it becomes more of a realistic look, is what I think, where I'm pretty sure he's got plastic eyes. Now, plastic eyes you can pick up for about $6. Again, online, on any of those websites I've just said. But if you're wanting to do a high-end doll, I think it's just no questions asked. You have to do glass eyes. It's so much more realistic. There's nothing I can say about it. You got to do glass eyes. Spend the extra $12 and do glass eyes. Okay, so you're now set up. You've got your stuff. You will need a rack because obviously when you're painting, you're going to need somewhere to put it. And what else? Rooting hair and things like that, we can do a separate video for that. That also, everyone has their own style and everyone can do, you know, some people can do amazing twirls, and, you know, I personally, I just put the hair in. Her hair's looking a bit south this morning, so I won't do that one. I'll find one that I've done the hair. You can style them, you'll have to cut the hair. Again, you need to get a good mohair. You can't, if you use cheap stuff, it's just gonna look tacky. So, or, you know, you can get, I can't remember how many grams I get, but it's only about $27 or $30 or something. And it just adds that higher end doll. And the thing is that there's so many different types of products and stuff that you can buy, as far as hair goes. But if you're just starting off and the whole process is new to you, then concentrate on the painting, get that right. Hair can always come later. I mean, some dolls go bald. You can paint hair on as well. You know, like, this is by no means the swirls and all that, but this was me just practicing on how to paint that hair. So I'm not going to go into too much detail in this video in regards to how to actually paint, but I will just start you off. So you've got all the things that you need and ready to go. So the first thing you're going to do is paper towel. I do use a lot of this. I do reuse colors, except in this instance I won't, because I haven't painted for a few weeks, and the paint's a little bit cack. So you're going to pour in, that went everywhere, pour in your thinner. Now, because I'll use a bigger brush, because for the first few coats, it's just going to be flesh. Everyone does this different. Everyone has a different way of doing it, and none of it is wrong. This is just the way that I find I like to do, okay? It also depends on, like, you've got to look at a color chart as well, but it depends on what color your vinyl is as well. So, but I always find that, just to start off, you can tell that she's quite dark. So if I show you her, excuse her hair because she's been sitting around for a while, but her vinyl is a lot darker. You can see the comparison. So painted and then unpainted. okay? She has a lot of red tones in her, and the reason that is because she is a more newborn looking doll, and so I wanted to put more red tones in her skin base, which is the first couple of layers that you do. But you can tell with this doll, she looks like an older doll, so she has more white areas, and I can show you how to do that. So it just depends on what look you like, and how you're going to go about planning out which way you want to paint. It really does depend on what style you like, and you may not even know until you start. You may start and think, oh, this one's, you know, too pale, or so this is a 19-inch doll, so she's not tiny. She's not an 18-inch. She's like just a good size. I tend to stick to the 18-inch to 20 inches. 18 inches more of your real newborn baby look. 20 inches and above, you're sort of getting a bigger baby. Kind of feels like a 6-month-old, 4 to 6 month old. 18-inch is more of your newborn. 16-inch, I have done lots of 16-inch, but be very careful because it's hard to buy clothes for them, and that's just, I struggle. Especially if you want it to look like a baby, I struggle to find clothes that are actually not like, I love knitted stuff, don't get me wrong, I've got a stack of knitted stuff, but if there's anything else you want, like jumpsuits, I struggle. Unless you can find a preemie section somewhere, I do struggle. All right, so we've got our legs. She's also got full legs. You're going to grab a little bit of your flesh tone. Just make sure my brush is clear. There is a little bit of red on my brush, but that doesn't worry me. Now, you basically just swirl it around in your dish, and you want to keep the consistency fairly thin, which means when you swirl it, I can still see a little bit of clear thinner, okay? And so you can kind of see, I don't know if you can see that or not, but it's kind of just a murky looking color. I've then grabbed for this one, I always grab the bigger brush, okay? And you swirl it around, and then you grab the arm, and then you just start painting over the top. Now, well, this is flicking everywhere. Oh God, it's flicking on my other doll. So just be careful too, as this is, as this layer is quite thick because you're using a bigger brush, be careful not to have the paint accumulate in the fingers. And what I mean by that is, once you have paint accumulate, because you think you're doing so many layers, one over the other, you're going to end up with thick paint, and it just looks awful, and it's really hard to get out. Because what happens if you've made a mistake, so right now I would dab that out, okay? I would dab that out. I don't want the accumulated back up in the creases. In any of the creases, I don't want that to become thick. I do have a remover. There is a Reborn remover. It's like a white pasty thing. The problem with that is that if you have accumulated paint in that section, if you're 10 layers in and then you go and use the remover, and there may be a better way of doing this, and if you guys know, tell me, because it's been like the worst thing, that if you get so far ahead and you go use the remover, you've gone down 10 levels, which means it's very hard to build that area back up to what the rest of the arm is. So just make sure with every level you are dabbing out the creases. You're not wiping out the paint because you're still dabbing. And then I would sit that there, and then I would go on obviously to the next limb. I would do the same again. And as you can see, you can barely actually tell that it's been painted. Now, depending on what flesh color you use, will depend on how dark this is. This is only a very light one. This is flesh 8. I normally use flesh 7, which is here somewhere. But for the purposes of this, Again, you're just dabbing it, and then I'll do it there. Now, I used to seal every layer. I don't do that anymore, because what I find is by the time you've gotten through all of them, this can probably take another layer. You're dabbing it, you're going around again. I would probably at max do this on the third layer at max. So I would go ahead, I would do the flesh, the full flesh for the limbs and the head. I have 2 ovens, which means I can put limbs in both, so I can have it happening a lot faster. But I did start off with 1 oven, and I would sort of put 2 in, because you don't want them touching inside the oven, and don't let your limbs in the oven touch the glass, because you can burn it. I do have 2 ovens simply because also there's a cooling down period that has to happen after they come out of the oven for that 10 minutes, because they're extremely hot. It only takes a few minutes, but it's just another step if you want to make this quicker. So if you're starting off, you go ahead, you do the same thing. You go, keep doing those flesh colors. And especially in the lips and the eyes, wipe it away, because you are going to end up, the lips are like, I swear they just suck all the paint, and then you're going to end up with this sort of chalky, awful look. And so again, I'm just going to pat it away. And then you'll see in here, I'm actually just going to get in there, because I don't want in the crevices of the eyes for it to build up. Now, a lot of people at this stage may mix sort of flesh with some pinks. If depending on the color of the vinyl, they might put some green in there just to sort of contrast the color chart, to change the look of the vinyl. I will do that further on, but I always kind of do my first, I will probably do at least 4 layers of just this. So 4 layers. Every 2 layers, put them in the ovens, let them cool down, bring it back out. And then the next step obviously is, for me, is I would probably then put some small bit of red. I think it's Pyrrole red. I can't, the names aren't there. Anyway, I've got 2 sorts of reds. But in the next video, I will show you what my next step would be with this. But for now, yeah, actually this is probably a good example of how the it started to creep up. So Summer Rain has some really there's like some crinkly wrinkles within the actual eyelid itself, and you can actually see where it's starting to build up. And I did notice it at the start, and I was sort of fiddling around with, do I try and remove it? So I did a little bit, and it didn't quite work. So like, you're going to have these things happen. It's very normal, yeah. That's a very normal part. But for the point of this video, go ahead, paint your 4 layers. And if you feel like you want to go a little bit more further ahead, this is my flesh. I would, like, you need hardly anything there. You mix that in. I've actually mixed it in with the flesh. It will create a pinky tone, and for me that's fine too. And then you can go ahead and, I don't know if you'll be able to see this so much. It will start to create a little pinky undertone on the actual dough itself. I'm not sure if that picks up, but again, you're going to pat it off, okay? Because that's what creates the layers. It's what makes them look realistic is the very thin layers being built up and built up and built up. So that's it for today, guys. Please subscribe. Obviously, it's 1 button. I swear I subscribe to every person on the planet because it doesn't do me any harm, and it just gets those YouTube numbers up. So please subscribe. The next sort of thing we're going to go over is once you've done your 4 layers, what do we do next? But for today, happy painting.